In 1999, a man named Terry Davis decided he was going to build an operating system. Not contribute to one, not fork Linux or whatnot OS, build one from scratch. Alone. It took him 10 years. The result was a fully functional 64-bit operating system with its own compiler, its own graphics, its own programming language, its own file system, its own everything. He called it TempleOS, and he sincerely believed that God told him to build it. Now, this isn't a video about Terry's life history. Neither is it a review of all the wacky things he said while suffering from schizophrenia. Today's video is a look into his life's work from the perspective of a C++ developer. TempleOS. Terry A. Davis was born in 1969. By all accounts, a brilliant student. He got a master's degree in electrical engineering, worked at Ticketmaster in the early 90s, and made a name for himself writing embedded system software. He had a totally normal career trajectory. Then in 1996, he had what he described as a manic episode that lasted 3 years. He was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. And this is where things get complicated, because what came out of that period wasn't chaos, it was TempleOS. He started building it in 2003 and released it publicly around 2013. One man, one OS, a decade of work. To put that into perspective for anybody watching who writes software for a living, the Linux kernel has thousands of contributors and decades of institutional knowledge behind it. Terry built something comparable, not in scale, but in completeness, entirely alone, while battling a mental illness and living with his parents. I want to be respectful here. Terry died in 2018. He was struck by a train in Oregon. There are people online who treated him as entertainment. That's not what this video is about. I want to look at what he actually built, because I think there's something genuinely worth understanding here. I won't be diving into every detail. I want to summarize what really stood out to me, so I hope you enjoy. Before we get into the technical stuff, I want to talk about something that surprised me right out of the gate. Just how easy this thing is to install. The ISO is 16 megabytes. All I needed to do was essentially spin up a VirtualBox VM, point it to the ISO, and boot it. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you're in, all you have to do is hit Y a couple of times, and that's it. It installs. It does so faster than Ubuntu, faster than Windows by an embarrassing margin. In this case, I actually decided to skip the install, and there you go. I'm running TempleOS. Let's take a step back. Why does it take Windows a minute to boot while it takes TempleOS half a second? You see, Windows uses virtual memory. Every process gets its own virtual address space, and the OS has to set up page tables, map memory regions, and get the MMU configured before anything can run. TempleOS, on the other hand, doesn't have paging at all. Physical memory is physical memory. Another reason is that there are no pesky drivers or USB controllers that need to be probed. What's more is that there's no background services or service manager that needs to run, which is why Windows sometimes appears like it's booted, but in reality it takes like a minute or two to really become usable. Today's video sponsor is me with getcracked.io. I started this interview prep platform for quantitative developers, but quickly branched out to traders and hardware engineers. The platform contains thousands of interview questions asked by top quant firms, coding problems, roadmaps, almost everything. We recently added a waveform debugger for the system Verilog problems, written by our hardware engineering partner that has over 30 years of experience in the space, and I'm currently filming system design videos for quant. If you're interested, check it out. For a system built by one guy in his bedroom, that kind of engineering discipline is something that most software doesn't have. I mean, even this demo game, Castle Frankenstein, is extremely impressive, as most people have no idea how hard it is to write something like this from absolute scratch. Now let's talk about the shell, because this is where things get genuinely weird in a good way. TempleOS has its own language called HolyC. We'll get into HolyC properly in a minute, but here's the key thing. HolyC is also the shell. There's no bash, no PowerShell, no separate scripting layer. You type commands in C syntax and they go directly into the compiler. What that means in practice is things like not needing to have a built-in calculator app because you don't need one. You just type 5 plus 7 semicolon and you get the answer, 12. You can write entire programs inline and execute them. It's like a full REPL, but the REPL is also the operating system. There's also a system-wide autocomplete. For example, I can type draw, and then I can see draw it. If I hit Control F1 anywhere, I will get not just file names completed for me, but also symbol names. all source code is indexed, and you can jump to any function definition from anywhere in the system, including the shell. And then there's the hypertext. Every file name printed in the shell is actually a clickable hyperlink. So for example, if I was to use the file viewer, which is done via type, and I was to go to the actual charter document to observe what's in it, and I was to scroll up, and if I see a hyperlink here, then I know it's clickable. So I scroll, and I see, okay, HolyC, cool. So if I click that, I'm taken to the HolyC document, which is essentially the compiler overview document. What I can also do is disassemble a function to see every symbol in its output, and then if it's linked, navigate to that and jump to the source. So if I was to do UF on a function called drawIt, which I saw in one of the game's source code, then I can see here the entire disassembly, and I can jump to a symbol in that disassembly and be taken to the actual source. Most OSs have a file manager. TempleOS is not an exception. You can get to it by hitting Control D. But here's the thing. You almost never need it because the shell already is the file explorer. So if I type dir, for example, I'll get the listing of everything here. Every directory is hyperlinked. I can click it. I can click on the two dots to navigate up. It sounds simple, but after spending a lot of time with it, it genuinely grows on you. It's the same hyperlink system running everywhere, the shell, the editor, the browser, the documentation. It's all one unified thing. Compare that to modern operating systems where you have the terminal, your file manager, your IDE, and documentation, and they're all four separate applications that barely know each other and don't communicate with each other. Okay, HolyC. This is the part I actually spent the most amount of time with, and it's the part I think is most interesting if you come from a low-level C, C++ background. At its core, HolyC is a reasonably complete version of C, but with some choices that made me stop and think a little. The first thing is that there is no main method. We'll take a look at what that means in a second in one of the games that Terry developed. It's just in time to ring 0, where ring 0 is the highest level of privilege that a CPU can assign to running code. So to show you guys an example, I'm currently in the demo games folder. If I wanted to edit the Big Guns HC file, which is one of the games we didn't take a look at, and scroll to the very bottom, you'll notice that there is no main method. There is just big guns at global scope. Now in standard C++, if I want to call a function, for example, if I want to do int a equals my function, then I can't just call it by writing out my function. So what's going on here? In HolyC, this is valid. And it's valid because every piece of code other than the initial kernel stuff gets just in time compiled on demand, directly to ring 0. There's no user space, there's no system call boundary. Your code just runs at the highest level of CPU privilege, the same level that the kernel does. Now, what are some implications of that? Well, an implication is because everything is run at ring 0, there is no safety net. So if I have a bad key press, a null pointer, anything, the whole thing gets shut down. As long as one exception is thrown somewhere in the call stack and I don't catch it, I'm screwed. So for example, if I'm at the terminal right now and I want to exit and I do it improperly, for example, shift escape, as you can see, an exception gets thrown and the whole thing just becomes unusable. There is no user space, kernel space boundary. It just tanks the whole thing. The second thing I found impressive is that there is no ahead of time linker. There are no object files. You just include a file in the command line and it compiles and loads it into the current namespace. The whole symbol table remains live at runtime. The compiler itself can handle 50,000 lines of code in under a second, and just for context, a modern C++ project can have you waiting minutes. So as an example, if I was to include the Big Guns game, games bigguns.hc.z, and then actually run it, I can run it directly there. It says, I refuse to rip off the original, so this is intentionally crappy and included for demonstration purposes. Write games, don't play them. Okay. The map scrolls. And then I have my little gunner here, and I can shoot balls, and there's realistic physics on them too. The next thing I found extremely impressive is the reflection and metadata baked into the class system. Now, HolyC has full metadata and reflection on every class member at compile time. You can enumerate every field, get its name, its offset. You can attach arbitrary custom metadata, things like default values, min-max ranges, format strings, all that stuff. This is the sort of stuff that C++ developers have wanted for decades, which we're getting a preview in C++26 of. And this guy just did it cleanly in his own HolyC standard. Now, I'd show you a working example, but every time I tried to write a file, I got some VirtualBox TempleOS compatibility issue that showed up via a hardware level fault. It just wouldn't allow me to write to disk. And when I tried to write this code programmatically in the shell and execute it there, it also wouldn't work. So I'll show you on the screen what I wanted to write and what the output actually looks like. The next thing that I found particularly interesting about TempleOS, and I think a lot of graphics dev in particular will be drawn to this, is the direct frame buffer access that it provides you. So I already included the sun moon demo into my shell here. So if I just type sun moon, you'll see a moon getting progressively closer to the sun in some sort of animation, and then it disappears. Why should you care? Well, in Windows, to make something animate on screen, you need a window class, a message pump, a paint handler, a timer. You're probably calling invalidate rectangle to tell Windows, hey, redraw this region, please. Windows then schedules a repaint, goes through the compositor, and eventually something moves on your screen. In TempleOS, though, there is no compositor. There's no message pump. There's no invalidate rectangle. The moon is simply a while loop. That's it. It's a while loop that writes pixel values directly into the frame buffer. The CPU is putting numbers into memory addresses that correspond to screen pixels. That's it. There's no middleman. And because everything runs at ring 0, that loop has the same privilege level as the kernel itself. There is nothing between the moon and the hardware. That's insane when you think about it. Now, I want to talk about the part that separates TempleOS from just being a weird technical experiment. The part that gets into Terry's actual worldview. TempleOS has a built-in random text generator. It pulls random words from the King James Bible and displays them. For example, when I hit F7. Terry believed this was a genuine communication channel between humans and God, and that the randomness was some divine signal, not noise. I can also pull up a random Bible verse with Shift F7, for example. Bam. Now, that's a symptom of his illness. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what I find philosophically interesting about it as a programmer. Terry was obsessed with true randomness. He went out of his way to make the oracle as unpredictable as possible. Mouse jitter, timing noise, hardware entropy. From a pure systems design perspective, he was thinking harder about randomness than most programmers ever do. There's also something weirdly compelling about the idea of an operating system that has a meditative, non-deterministic mode built into it. We build systems that are supposed to be perfectly predictable. Terry, on the other hand, built one that intentionally wasn't, at least in one corner of it. Coming back to the operating system, if I hit F6, for example, TempleOS can generate random music. Terry built his own music notation system into the operating system, and the divine oracle doesn't just give you Bible passages. Through F6, you are literally able to compose songs, random melodies, time signatures, octaves. He believed that God was communicating to him through the randomness of notes as much as words. On real hardware, this would be playing through the PC speakers right now. It obviously isn't, because I'm running this on VirtualBox. But if you think about it, Terry lived with his parents. They can hear these random melodies, which he believed were coming through God, from his room. When I exit out of the song, I'm also shown a random number generator. Now, I'm not sure if this is something that I'm doing incorrectly, but there's this ominous text of the Holy Spirit can puppet you, and I have to hit the spacebar a couple of times and exit again until I can be returned back to the terminal. There's an analogy Terry used to explain his design philosophy that I keep coming back to. He said, Linux is a semi-truck with 20 gears. Windows is a car. TempleOS is a motorbike. If you lean over too far, you'll fall off. But don't do that. His argument was that Linux was designed for a 1970s mainframe use case. 100 users, shared resources, one crash can't take everybody down. That makes sense for a server, but for a personal computer with one user, all of that protection, isolation, and permission machinery is overhead that exists to protect you from yourself, really. Terry said, empower the user instead. Give them ring 0. Give them the whole machine. And honestly, as a C++ developer, I kind of get it. Every abstraction layer has a cost. The Linux kernel is a marvel of engineering, but it also carries 50 years of decisions made for use cases that don't apply to most of the machines running it today. One writer compared TempleOS to systems like Xerox Alto, Oberon, and Plan 9. Research operating systems that blur the lines between programs, documents, and the shell into one unified thing. Those systems also never won the market, but their ideas didn't die. They showed up later in other places. Maybe some of Terry's ideas will too. The lesson isn't abandon C++ or C is outdated or run TempleOS. The lesson is when someone has invested a decade of their life into something, even if that something is built on a foundation of mental illness and divine instruction, quote unquote, there might be one idea in there that's worth using.